Welcome to Photo Work. I'm Mylan. We have Shannon here.
Hi.
On today's interview, we have photographer based out of LA, Chris Shintani.
And in his interview, Chris shares with us his big break in the industry, the best advice he was given as newer photographer, and advice for how you can stand out in the industry.
Now, this was recorded pre-pandemic, so things may have changed. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Well, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Good to see you.
Very nice to finally meet you guys. Yeah.
Yes. I know for those that don't know, we've been like circling each other for a
Yeah.
while, trying to make this happen. So it's a happy day.
Yeah. Very exciting.
Yes. So we wanted to start out with our favorite question is, what's been your story getting into this industry?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So it's not the longest one. It's just like, I started 2008 with like the Model Mayhem days.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, started on Model Mayhem days and I was like shot a lot of really random things, a lot of really random people, met some studio mates through that. And then, are we doing long story? Like
Go
a
for
bridge?
it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Oh,
Let's
God.
do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, where did you grow up? Where did you come from?
So I grew up in SoCal, grew up in Monterey Park. Go Monterey Park. San Gabriel Valley. So grew up there. Went to school in Fullerton, so Orange County. Did the whole business thing like we were talking about, and then switched to art. And then in art, I was actually going to do glass blowing randomly. So I was doing design, glass blowing, and photography all at the same time, and like just kind of dealing with everything. And after doing all of that, I remember talking to my glass blowing teacher, and he was like, he's one of my good friends now too, and he was just like, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of doing this, and he goes, ooh, not like the most amount of money made in this, but like it's a great career path, but it's like not. He goes, what's your other options you have? And I was like, oh, I was thinking photography, and he goes, that's a good career path.
There's some money there.
There's some money there. Yeah. He's like, you won't starve. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I switched to that, and and so switched to that, shot college people, like friends and stuff like that. And then finally, LA Models actually sent me my first test, like my first model test. And I remember Kim Purpley's, she was like, okay, cool. And she sent it to me. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to work with real models. This is crazy. And I worked with New Faces, which, we all know now. But like New Faces was like, cool, we're working with kind of kids.
Yeah.
Which I was like, all right, cool. And I didn't have that much experience as far as directing goes. And so, yeah, that was a whole trial and error thing. It was great times. Built from there. Ended up getting a job assisting a huge commercial photographer, which was like just game changing. And then did that for a couple of years, and then went to Revolve as in-house. Did that for a few years, and then left them. And now I'm sitting with you guys.
That's good.
Yeah. So.
All right, are you able to mention who that photographer was that you assisted?
His name's Kevin Lynch.
Yeah.
He's a great photographer. I don't know. Yeah. Worked with him pretty much on the regular for about 2 years and change. Yeah. I like to say it's like the gauntlet for people trying to learn things. That's the best way to put that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, like you will definitely get worked as far as technical and your mental game goes, and just sheer will to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was cool. Yeah, it was definitely a thing.
It was like trial by fire, really.
It kind of was, yeah. Like some of the stories I've heard from other buddies of mine who have assisted, like really big dudes too. They go in and it's like, all right, cool. This is it. Like this is the show. Here you go. Good luck. Don't set on fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely was a thing. But, I wouldn't say it was. I wouldn't say I had like the worst experiences from what I've heard as far as like difficulty goes, but it definitely still was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They work you.
Yeah. It is a sink or swim kind of thing. I feel like the level of expectations that you set at that caliber is significantly different than, like, I would say a very huge majority of photographers are even aware of for the most part.
Wow.
But yeah. And then, well, I mean, but that's also commercial, and then there's also fashion, which I feel has a whole different realm of like expectations, I guess,
Yeah.
Ooh,
and chaos.
and
That'd
chaos.
be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
compare
What
and
is your
contrast?
opinion? Yeah.
Yeah. What's
What is
your opinion?
experience in that?
Okay, well, I mean, I can't say like just personal experience as far as fashion wise goes with that kind of caliber assisting, but from just stories of friends of ours when we kind of like just hang out, it's commercial to me is something where it's like advertising wise, it's very clear cut. Like you have a goal, and it's like, all right, cool, we're that. And the fashion's kind of just like, oh, we want like the moment, but everything still has to look perfect, but we want the moment.
Yeah.
So I know guys who will like set things up, and also photography be like, okay, I think we got the shot, and like at lunch, photographer will grab a camera and start shooting and be like, I don't understand why the lights aren't going right now. Like it looks so cool, but like the lights aren't going, and they have to like scramble and like get everything running again and then get everything up, and it's like, oh, that sounds terrifying. But but it's a little different speed, it's a little different process. But yeah, like but this is the same. I feel like it's still the same expectations of like of execution that you're trying to go for. So yeah, so I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I don't know. Yeah, I feel for them.
Yeah, it's a whole other ball game.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I have a quote I made up. To me, photography, or at least like fashion photography in general, feels like it's 95% troubleshooting and 5% art.
It is like that. I mean, I feel like more so now than it used to be. Like, I mean, just you have clients that like you tether, and it's like like the tether cord goes down. I mean, I just took my laptop the other day to get some. It was not working. I was not having a good time with it. And the guy was like, "Well," and I was like, "I think it's my port." And he goes, "Well, do you check your camera?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, I only have one camera to check right now, so like." I'm like, I think it's not the camera, I hope. Mm-hmm. And he's like, do you check the cords? And I was like, I kind of did. And he's like, okay, cool. So he ran all his cords and like a couple other things on it. And he was like, oh, it seems to kind of work fine. And I'm like, cool. That means it's not this. Okay, let's go troubleshoot everything else that goes with it. Yeah. Yep. Where before I was like, oh, you load film and you light meter. And you're done. And now it's like, all right, cool. We have all this other stuff to worry about now.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's why.
Yeah. To me, it's like even just lighting a set. It's figuring out. Oh, now I have double shadow. Like I get rid of double shadows, and
I mean, I do like how constant light's coming back in though. Like the RE system and coming back in super hot with like their banks and like. All of these, constant lighting that you can actually run stills with now. I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, LEDs are finally getting powerful enough.
Yeah, and they're like not ugly looking.
Yep.
Like, so I feel like that was always the thing. I was like, okay, you either use like Fresnels or you use Kinos, and you're like, all right, cool.
Kinos don't have enough power.
Yeah, so then it's like, and the Fresnels are just way too spotted. So you're like, you gotta like triple silk everything out, and you're like, oh god. and now you're like, oh, we have like the RE banks.
Yep.
Sky banks where it's like, oh.
I know, I love it.
Yeah.
Simplify everything.
Yeah, it does make it nice. Yeah.
/ broke now. Yeah.
That's the other big part to it. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely the thing. I was telling one of my clients too. They're just like, oh, we want to run like constant lighting for video, and I'm like, oh, we have some options. And they're like, what's the range? And I was like, from like kind of affordable to like expensive, like really expensive. And they're like, oh, cool. Like, how much is expensive? I was like, I don't know, like $20,000. I'm like, whoa. It's kind of expensive.
Rent that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It's like layaway.
That you never actually get.
I know. It's just like, it's just going to sit there forever. Yeah. Rent to own, one of those kind of things.
What's been your big break?
Oh, my God.
Snapchat? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God. Yeah. No, just Cash App. God, my big break. I would say between in all seriousness, my two big breaks I ever had, I would say, was assisting. One of them was assisting, and the other one was getting the job at Revolve. However, I do have to like side note that whole thing with like getting that job. The way that the platform kind of evolved was a really rare case of just like everyone being in one place at the right time kind of thing, where the creative director, stylist, art director, we all meshed so well that everything was like pretty much seamless for the most part, which was kind of cool. Kind of rare, I feel, because I definitely don't have that a lot of times with even just other clients. But yeah, it just all kind of came together.
Do you feel like that's a typical path of like making it into this industry, or would you say this was like your unique path?
I think it was like my unique one.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of guys. I've always seen a lot of guys like they assist and then they shoot and it just so like I like consistency to some degree. So from leaving freelance going into something else, it was like having a consistency of like, okay, cool, I'll have a 9 to 5. I can like recenter myself and do all of that, and then do my own stuff after that. Like that was in my head. That was my mentality towards everything. But yeah, I've seen a lot of guys just like bounce straight freelance from assisting, or they freelance while they're assisting. Which kudos to them. I don't know how you have time and energy for a lot of that sometimes, but I feel like nowadays it's a little different than it kind of used to be too, though. Like there's so many media outlets and there's so many just different routes that you can take now, where like you can be an Instagram photographer. Crazy.
So true.
Like that's a thing. Like you could be like an Instagram boyfriend or whatever I don't know the account I follow. It's just like one of those dumb ones. But yeah, it's just, I'm like, yeah, you could do that. Just professional iPhone taker. Like, hey, kudos to you. I don't know.
That's amazing.
I don't know
how to make money.
Exactly. I'm like, you can do it. Rock and roll.
What's been your biggest struggle thus far?
Oh, I remember reading that. I was like, there's a lot. Well, I wouldn't say there's a lot. I feel like every day is kind of like, all right, you got to like figure it out.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of figuring things out. Like mainly your waves of clients, like how you're going to run freelance and making sure you don't starve. And then once you get through the rhythm of things, like maintaining clients and then also staying creative constantly. Like I feel like being able to constantly push yourself is not a struggle, but it definitely is a thing. Like it's very easy to get stuck into like this plateau of like, oh cool, I have this rhythm, I like doing this and it's fine. And you sit there and you go, okay, this is stupid. Let's do something great. And you sit there and you're like, ugh. And then something kind of pops up randomly while you're driving. And you're like, oh, okay, cool, we're back. Like it's one of those kind of things. But yeah, that. And then I also think like maintaining separation between personal and business wise. Like I feel like because the industry is so fun and like your peers and the people you work with on set for crew and everything else, like you become very close all the time because I mean like you travel the world with each other and you like have all these crazy experiences that most people don't get to experience. And then if something goes wrong, then you start figuring out who does take responsibility, who doesn't. It turns into a business, and you're like, okay, cool. Now we have to like start splitting things apart because, you can't just keep everything mixed together like that necessarily. It's not mentally sustainable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest struggles for the most part. But other than that, it's kind of like a circus in here. Like the industry is almost like it's just like the Wild West. You just go out there and do all kinds of things.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
Probably struggling while assisting too, right? That's, I mean, like it's a grind, right?
Yeah. I do. Yes and no. I feel like assisting wise, like it's a grind, but it's also a lot less stressful. Like it's stressful when you're doing your job because your job, like the whole production relies on even like the every position matters at that point. Like if you're running tech or if you're firsting, even if you're running third and your job is to like stare at a light strip and make sure it like it doesn't go out and stuff like that. Like it's if you don't do your job, the shoot stops and it's crazy kind of thing. So, so that part's stressful, but at the end of the day, you get to go to bed and sleep. Like, you know, you don't have to process and think about client relations and all this other stuff. You go, okay, cool, done.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's got trade-offs for sure. Yeah.
Can you tell us about a story on set, if it's possible?
Yeah, I think I can. Well, so I have this one story, and it's this one job we did, and I won't say the full specifics, but like it was a long job. It was like 14, 15 days on set, out of the country, in a forest shooting. We had to do build out, set up, shoot, breakdown every day for 15 days. I think it was 15 days. Might have been 16 days. I don't know, something like that. It was a little over 2 weeks, and then and we had one day off in the middle, and we would wake up, I think around like 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning, get in the cars, get to location by like 5-ish, 5, 6-ish. And then we would have to set like pellets out. So we'd have to level a forest basically to set up a studio in the middle of nowhere with generators running everywhere. And like truck lights were our eyes basically. So we had like little headlight, like the headgear light things on and stuff like that. And we were running 2 computers, you know, all medium format stuff. I mean, it was full rig studio.
Yeah.
And it was that every single day. It was intense, yeah. And it was before sunup, and then we'd wrap set when you know the sun was down basically because they couldn't film anymore. So we would wrap set at night in the dark, and then around like 10 o'clock get back to the hotel, and then I would process from there because I was teching, and that was a long job.
Yeah.
That was a very long job. So yeah, after that point, like that's the one job I would have to say like I fell asleep standing up, and just because I didn't sleep the entire time there.
There was no time.
There was no time.
Yeah, no time. Like you got like 2 hours of sleep at night, kind of thing, for that many days in a row with like that amount of files, and that's the big one. That's
That's a struggle.
I call that one the gauntlet. That was the gauntlet. That was like, oh, you could survive that. Mm-hmm. You could survive a lot of things. It's fine. Yeah.
I mean, when you're running on like basically no sleep for so long, something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen to you personally, your body, or like mistakes and.
Yeah, but I feel like that's part of it. Like I feel like that does kind of like intro you into being a photographer though. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, if you can't handle days of like just no sleep and really pushing your limits of like creativity as far as execution goes on top of that with technical, like you can't handle big jobs. Like that's all it is.
Yep.
So that's why that was like, whoa, this is not good. But it all worked out at the end.
Totally. Yeah.
So where do you see the industry going in like the next 5 years?
Oh man. I feel like the still image will always hold value. I do feel like that will always hold value as far as how it's monetized and how it's valued as far as the everyday goes, though. I feel like it will probably depreciate in the everyday sense of itself over time, just because the accessibility of it's so broad that people on platforms are able to interpret and give opinion that is taken as valid to a vast majority of other people that don't necessarily have an aesthetic. Even with like the birth of Instagram, I'm like, I call Instagram like the Walmart of the world. Like it's every person on the planet can give their 2 cents to it without having any background to understanding composition, color, just pure professional execution of things. Like things are wrinkly on whatnot, and there's like there's just a lot of imperfections, and everyone goes, oh yeah, it's fine though because the world's imperfect. And I'm like, yeah, the world is imperfect, but our job is to make sure that we can capture the most perfect moment. That's the point to it. Like, it's like you look at all the old, classic, traditional, beautiful fine art photos, and it's like that moment that was caught where everything just happened to be perfect. And a lot of times it's staged, but like the moment itself wasn't, but the prep going into it was. And it's like, and that's what makes it amazing. And that's what makes it something to value. Where a lot of people just value a lot of things that aren't necessarily, what's the word? I don't know. Like, I just, not aesthetically pleasing. I don't know. Or valuable. Like, it's hard to say that because I'm like, everything aesthetically technically has value to itself. It's just how much is being given to it, I feel like is getting really skewed, I guess. Yeah.
And then thus like devaluing it.
Yeah.
Becoming disposable. Like things are so highly disposable.
Yeah. Like the idea of a campaign, like shooting a print campaign, it's like so rare now. Everyone's like, whoa, that's crazy because everyone just shoots on Instagram now. Like it's like, all right, it lasted on Instagram. It was like the swipe up thing or something like that someone saw for 2 seconds. And I'm like, it's not like, even like the VS show being canceled. It's like everyone's like, oh, the VS show got canceled, and it's like, oh, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. Well, before that, everyone's like, well, VS, terrible VS. Like, you guys only support this demographics. I'm like, but that's what made people want it. Like, that's what made fashion. Everyone want fashion because Vogue and V and all these all these magazines had such an aesthetic that like it was unattainable, and that's what makes it wanted is because you
aspirational.
Yeah. You want something that you can't have. And now you can have everything that you want, which makes everything terrible to me, at least. Well, yeah, no, because that's what makes me strive. It's like that's what makes you push the boundaries of creativity is because you're like, well, I want to make something better, and now everyone's like, well, we just like what you make, doesn't matter, and I'm like that creates laziness. Like that doesn't make anything interesting anymore. So. Yeah.
Do you think there'll be a backlash of everything's disposable on Instagram, and then eventually over time we might go back to having more value? I mean, obviously that's more like happier view of things.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen that with like just brands in general, where like when Instagram first did come out and social media first came out, it was like they went the route, and it's like you get these kids. Oh my god! Like even the other night, I was at Zara picking up a Christmas gift thing. And the guy behind me, he's like, I guess he's a photographer. I don't know, but he's on the phone, and he's like, oh god, the conversation he was having was like, oh, he's talking about his rate. Also, he's talking really loud, but he's talking about his rate in the store. And he goes, yeah, they're trying to haggle, they're trying to haggle me, and but I'm gonna ask for a lot of money on this next one. He's like, I'm thinking like if we go with $800 for 100 images, 100 pieces. For looks, we could that sounds great. And I'm like $800 for 100 looks. I'm like, what the hell are you shooting? Like, and who are you shooting for? Where that's the haggle, like that. And I just in my head I was like, oh my god, and that's and I get it. Like everyone's got to start somewhere, but like that's terrible. Like you can't be getting quality out of that.
No.
And so. Yeah. So, but that's, so I know that's always going to happen still, but yeah, I think the overall aesthetic, everyone's thinking like this is great now with Instagram and all this like momentum of the accessibility to it. And I'm like, yeah, but no. I'm like, because you're now just like mixing a bunch of like great things with like everything else.
Yeah.
And I think you lose a lot of character from doing that. But, well, what am I to say? I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a little schmuck over here. Taking photos in downtown,
Yeah. But yeah, it does feel like really disposable as far as like everything, like you said, like a 1 second or 2 seconds swipe up and there's your image and that's it. It's over.
Yeah. It's just something about that I don't find valuable because it's nothing to strive for. I'm like, well, what's the point? Who cares? Like, cool, I shot something. Like, I don't know, make it go towards something. Make an image last forever.
So then, that's the still photography side. Do you think more motion is going to be like more and more and more?
No. Well, Yes and no. I mean, like, because I was always asked that before, where everyone's like, "Oh, do you shoot motion?" And I was like, "I don't." I dabbled with it. I was like, "Oh, this sounds cool. I really want to do that for a hot second." And then after doing it, I was like, "I don't want to direct." I was like, I never really had any motive to like go in that direction. And so I'm like, I know a lot of brands do that, which is cool. And I've had these discussions with like DPs and like just lighting guys and camera ops, and where they're like, yeah, well, our job is very difficult because what we have to do is create a perfect frame that can move. And I was like, well, here's the difference: is when that hair is out of place and it moves, no one cares after 2 seconds because it just switches to the next scene. I was like, where ours, we don't get that. It just sticks there and you stare at it forever.
Yeah.
And so, I feel that's where I feel like, there still will always be a place for stills. But yeah, I mean, motion's great. You can do all kinds of weird stuff with it.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to forgive the mistakes that go through it.
Oh yeah.
And you kinda have to.
You kind of have to.
Yeah.
It's way harder to edit too.
Yeah. It has some forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah. So to all my motion friends, sorry, I'm talking about just shit on you guys right now. You guys are great.
There's so many photographers, but how can like a new person stand out in the industry now and make it?
Oh. Well, yeah. For now, like in today's day, I feel like because there's just so much stuff going on. I feel like if you stick to one style and you do it well, but you stick to that one style, and if we're talking like just sheer quickness of gaining clientele and having some notoriety, it's like you do that and then utilize everything that exists. So like all social media outlets, and really just push your name like that. You also have to be good at what you're doing because it's got to look good. But
Yeah.
But if you stick to the style, I feel like it's a lot easier I've seen a lot of guys gain clientele faster that way than the old traditional way of like, oh, I'm a photographer. Like I can do everything. Whereas now it's like, well, I do one thing extremely well. And if you send me your stuff, I will do that with this. And this is what I do. Which, yeah. So.
Yeah. I've noticed people saying that, like even just having your portfolio being without smiles.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, oh, we can't use you because you don't do smiles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, because you can't figure out how to direct somebody
That's
to smile.
not on me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could say smile in that photo, but
yeah. Like I mean, even for myself, it's like I have so many different PDFs that I send out for different jobs. Like if someone's like, oh, swim, here's a bunch of swim stuff. If it's lifestyle, here's a bunch of lifestyle stuff. And I've had where people are like, oh, well, we didn't even know you. Like I had someone that was like, oh, have you ever shot a celebrity before? And I'm like, well, have you been on my website? And they're like, oh, we're on your Instagram. I don't know. We didn't see too much stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah, what professional people do is they go on a website because if you don't have a portfolio online, that's the bare minimum that you should hold as a professional person. I was like, because, I have a printed book and everything else, but if you don't have a website, I'm like, damn, like you're just going off Instagram? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I could be shooting the whole thing with my phone. You would never know. It's on a 2-inch screen. I think it's like 2,000 pixels wide. Like, who cares?
Well, and then you're shooting so much, then like all your stuff gets buried, so you can't curate unless you never post anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And my Instagram is like really random. Really random. Yeah, it's not a good place for portfolios for me, at least. I got a lot of friends that, that's what they do. I'm like, that's good. That's good for you guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
I use social media for social media.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, showcasing your personality, what it's like to work with you behind the scenes. Like, that's what it's for.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I'm like,
What is the number one thing that you like about doing this job?
ooh, the number one?
Give me the number one. You can give me some others too, but I need to know what is the most fulfilling
The
part?
most fulfilling part to doing this, having this career, I think is overall the experiences, all the experiences, good or bad, but like just experiences. Like you travel. I mean, traveling's part of it, but it's not, like, because you get over traveling kind of fast too. But like you get the travel, but it's the people too. I guess I would say the people. Yeah, there we go. The interactions with the people. I think that's the number one hugest takeaway I get from doing this as a career. Is like everything you do and every person you meet always has a unique story. and it's never boring. Like, it's like everyone you work with has something to say. There's always conversation that's just interesting across the board. You meet the most fascinating people on the planet. So it's like, yeah, you can't get that I feel like you really can't get that in a lot of other places. But yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
But overall, the career in this industry, I don't think I'd ever try to change it at any point. Like, you have fun every day. For the most part. I mean, like, our job is to have fun basically and like create stuff. So you're like a kid playing with things all day long. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like it's like an extra good day when you really connect with talent?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, of course. I'm like, just, if the talent works, I haven't had too many bad experiences as far as talent goes too, which is nice. But yeah, if you do vibe with everyone on set and everything flows really smoothly, I'm like, it's even, it's a cherry on top. But the general sense of the whole base of the cake, this is it. Like, this is cool. I don't know. I wouldn't trade this for anything at this point.
So we've been talking about newer photographers. What are some things that you wish that you see newer photographers doing, you wish they would stop doing?
Oh God.
Besides shooting,
Like this. Yeah.
It's
put your eye up to it.
it's hard for me to have it's hard for me to really have a say in that because I feel like from where I came up in, it's shifted so much in dynamic that, like, if I was to criticize, like, oh, you shouldn't do this, but you make more money than me, then it's like, oh well, fuck me, right? Like, I don't know. Like, it is though. It's like hey, do what you do to do it. I feel like just don't be a dick. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know a lot of new photographers, I guess, to say the most part. And the youngest ones that I do know are just they're good at what they do. They're respectful. They do their job well. They most of the ones that I am friends with, for the most part, at least did it right in my eyes. Like, they went and assisted, or they had worked in a studio and they had done proper technical training and all this other stuff. All the Instagram kids, I don't really know. Like, I meet some of them sometimes. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, yeah, I have like 500,000, like 1 million followers, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I don't know who you are. Yeah. Like, I still don't care. That's fine. Good for you. I have no criticism because I don't care about your work. Like, it means nothing to me. Mm-hmm. So
it's just different worlds. It's not,
it is.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah, that's all it is to me. Like, it's, yeah, because hey, to each their own. Like, do your thing, rock and roll. Shit, Terry Richardson could make a living doing this thing, shooting with the Contax T2 or whatever he shoots with. I'm like, hey, do all kinds of weird stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my take on that.
What's been the best advice you've ever been given?
Ooh, the best advice I think I've ever heard, at least for myself, was, well, yeah, of course for myself. It was through a model agent one time. So back in the day when I was still starting and I sucked, and I mean I still suck, but whatever, it's fine. When I really didn't know what I was doing, and I did a shoot, and I kind of let like the makeup and hair and everyone else kind of like run wild. It's like a bunch of kids that just came out of like school, and if you ever work with people like that, everyone's very ambitious, has very ambitious expectations of what they're capable of. And they want to just show all of their skill that they learned. And that's not a good thing to do when you are supposed to be running your set. So did the shoot. First few looks were great. It was fine. Very normal looking stuff. And then the last one was crazy. It was just it was crazy looking. Didn't use any of those photos. And then the model agent was like, well, you said we were going to get 4 looks. We only got 3 looks. Like, what's up? Where's the 4th one? And I was like, well, here's like a preview, but like, I don't like it really. So like, we're just going to scrap it. And he was like, well, and I was like, and there was this conversation on that, but he said basically, and he goes, that's not a good enough excuse. He's like, that's not an excuse at all. He's like, your job as a photographer and the reason you get paid and more so than most people on set do is because at the end of the day, your photo is a representation of you. So if you accept, if you're letting your crew and your teams run around and do whatever they want to do, you're not a photographer. You're just a monkey pressing a button. And so each image you produce at the end needs to reflect that. And I was like, oh, so ever since then, it's like, all right. So in my head, it's like, if I don't like it, you speak up and you make sure it looks exactly how you think you want it to look, or whatever the capabilities are to an extent. But that's probably the best, was like, just in perspective of like where you should always be as far as your own expectations go. Yeah. It's like there's no excuses. Like, it's like, this is your work. That's it. Like, you screw up, and if anyone else screws up on your set, it's not their fault. It's just still your fault at the end. And I was like, good to know. That's probably the best. I would say that's the strongest advice I've ever gotten. Yeah, makes it a lot more stressful, but yeah, whatever.
But it was nice they didn't sugarcoat it for you.
Yeah. I was like, because I feel like if I never heard that, not necessarily saying I would be more open to like making mistakes, but like it really made you think a lot harder than when you're working, especially like, if you're doing like commission tests and stuff like that too. Like back then, they're paying you for a service. Like, I'm like, most photographers, I would say it's not necessarily about how great you could take one photo. It's the consistency of taking multiple amazing photos kind of thing. So and that's the other thing with Instagram. Like, Instagram's like, everyone sees it and they go, oh, cool, you shot this. You're a great photographer. And it's like, well, you need to look at a book, and then you want to see other work they've done, because if they can't shoot a lookbook, but they can shoot one image. Maybe they're a campaign photographer. Like, maybe they're a one-shot photographer. But don't hire them for your lookbook, like things like that. Like, because, you have to be able to manage the entire day. Mm-hmm. If you're on a 10-hour set, you can't say, well, I only can shoot for 1 hour because I don't know how to work anything past a certain time outside, kind of thing, And so, that's the way I look at that.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Loved it.
Can you tell people where to find you?
I'm in LA. I have my Instagram. It's at Shintani, Shintani. And my website, shintaniphotography.com. I started TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, what up, TikTok?
So you can follow me on there. I think it's just Chris.Shintani on there.
It's really good. Check it out.
It's,
Oh, TikTok.
Oh, TikTok.
Oh, God.
But really, go find Chris on Instagram and his website and all the things. And thank you so much. It was a blast.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us. It wouldn't be YouTube if we weren't shamelessly asking you to like and subscribe.
Yeah. Also, comment down below of who you want to see us interview, what you want to learn, and also, the most important, where to get the best tacos in your town is.
Because we love tacos.
Tacos are good. Bye.